So we're going to type in some bel canto commands. First of all, whenever you're typing bel canto, we've got this concept of conversations, which I need to explain quickly. What this means is, well, as I said before, there's 400 odd agents running in the normal, like the most basic setup that you can run. And a lot of these respond to similar commands. So what we need to do is specify who we're talking to. And in this case, we want to change the pitch bend range of the piano. So we're talking to the scaler. And this is sampler 1's scaler. So we need to say sampler 1, scaler, hey. So I'm just going to type that in as well. So sampler 1, scaler, hey. And if we say, so we're using the name of the agent first, sampler 1, scaler, and then hey. And what hey means is the next line that we write, the only thing that's going to respond to it is sampler 1, scaler. We could say listen, so there's two commands we can use, either hey or listen. Hey, it's only the next line that will relate only to sampler 1, scaler. If we say listen, it's everything from then on until we cancel the conversation will respond to sampler 1, scaler. So that's hey or listen. We'll use hey for now because we're just going to do one at a time. So sampler 1, scaler, hey. And the next thing we need to write is K bend range. That's K space bend range to number of semitones. So it's going to be 12 semitones. And then so K bend range to 12 set. Aaron will write this on the chat window for you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so I've said sampler 1, scaler, hey. K bend range to 12 set. So you can hear now. I can do pretty mad vibrato. So that bend range can be anything between 0 and I think it's 96. It might be 72. But it will tell you if you go too high. But it's a massive bend range you can put on here. I think it's 96. And it doesn't just have to be whole semitones. You could say 11.451 semitones set, or whatever you really want to do. So it's very customizable. And the same thing will apply to any sampler. So you can say sampler 3, scaler, hey, K bend range to 51 set. Okay, and the next thing I want to show you is, so that was the pitch bend on the keys. Now we also have the pitch bend on the on strip controller 1. This is the global pitch bend input, and this is a different value that you can set independently. So let's try that quickly. So we've got sampler 1, scaler, hey again. So it's still the scaler that's responsible for this. So if you say sampler 1, scaler, hey. Oh, I didn't mention, but...
Sorry, sorry Dave, just quick question, 96 what, semitones?
Semitones, yes. Okay, so yeah, all the values I'm talking about at the moment are in semitones. And I should have mentioned, on the bottom right pane in the Eigen commander, will tell you whether your command has been typed in correctly. So it should say OK, come up in black when it's being accepted and say OK. If it comes up in red and says failed, it will give you a little clue, an error message underneath as to what's wrong, but normally it will be like it can't find the name of the agent or a spelling mistake or something.
Sorry, can you just tell me what the last bel canto command was?
Okay, so I did sampler 1, scaler, hey, and then K bend range. Did you do the K bend range one?
Yeah. Okay,
and then sampler 1, scaler, hey. Again, and this time I'm doing the global bend range. So we say global bend range to, again, I think this can be quite massive, so I'll put 96 set. Oh, okay, apparently my allowable range is up to 72 semitones, I'm sorry. So sampler 1, scaler, hey, global bend range to 72 set. So we've got a massive bend range. Actually, it's quite interesting if you get a chance to try like a 72 semitone bend range on the keys, because you can really hear like how fine the resolution is then. You haven't, even with such a massive bend range on the keys, you don't get any kind of audible steps. It's still like a really smooth, so it's quite a good experiment if you've got time. Okay, so they're the pitch bend ranges I wanted to show you. So that's, oh, there's one more thing. So we can also set the pitch bend curve. What I mean by this is we can change how how quickly, when you tip the key up, the pitch bend goes up. I'll explain this in a little bit better if I do an example. Okay, so we've got to say sampler 1 scalar again, and then hey. Okay, sampler 1 scalar hey, we're just talking to the scalar. Okay, and the command we need to use now is curve to x set. So, so the curve can be any number between 0 and 4. Okay, so a value of 1 for the curve is just a linear thing. So, have you got a bit of paper? I'll get some paper in. Right. Okay, so a value of 1, just a linear curve. Okay, a value above 1, the curve gets steeper. So, as in, a wonderful diagram. So, hang on now, I'm not very good at these. So anyway, the curve gets steeper like this. So, so what that means is that even if you put the pitch bend to like 3, the curve to 3, you're gonna move this slightly, and the pitch is going to go up quite dramatically. Anything underneath 1, and the curve gets shallower. So this means like you'll be able to bend the key quite slightly, and the pitch bend won't move until you go to the extremes of the kind of roll. I'll do a demonstration of that. So first of all, let's say sampler 1 scalar hey, curve to let's put 3.8 set. So curve. Oh, maybe I can't do that. Okay, sampler 1 scalar hey. I'm just going to do 4. Curve to 4 set. Okay. So this is the real extreme. So basically we've got a curve now that is so steep it's just a right angle. So you can hear that like instead of there being a smooth transition between like the highest, which is an octave up, and the lowest, which is an octave down, it's just doing it's just jumping between the values. Okay, if I do the opposite of that, so if I say sampler 1 scalar hey, curve to 0.3 set. That's not letting me. Let's try curve to 0 set. Okay, let's try curve to 1 set. Okay. So you can see we've still got a very sensitive pitch bend there. Sampler 1 scalar hey, curve to 2 set. Okay, so I've turned it down slightly now. So I've got a little bit more leeway. So I mean, play around with the curve. The curve is good if you're getting used to the Eigenharp and you still want to have this like large pitch bend range, but you want a little bit of leeway when you're hitting a note. So you've got a little bit of padding there, so you can hit the note in the centre and you don't have to worry about it wobbling about too much. But the piano always sounds a bit dodgy with pitch bend. Okay, so that's the pitch bend stuff. That's all to do with the scalar. Next agent I want to talk about is the envelope, which is the AHDSR. And what we can do with the AHDSR is affect the velocity curve, so how the instrument responds depending on how hard you hit the note. So let's have a look at that. So we say sampler 1 AHDSR hey this time. So sampler 1 AHDSR hey. Okay, so now we're only talking to the envelope generator, the AHDSR. And the command we want to use is velocity curve. So we're going to say velocity curve to, and this one is a number between, rather than between 0 and 4, it's a number between 0 and 10. It works the same way, so 1 is a linear curve. Anything above 1, the curve gradually gets steeper and steeper. Anything below 1, the curve gets shallower and shallower. So what that actually means is, so let's try, okay, velocity curve to 10 sets. This is the most extreme, the steepest curve you can get. And you can see, I don't have to hit it very hard at all, and it's making quite a large volume.
John just asked, what happens if I set it to 3,000?
The curve?
Yeah.
It will tell you you can't, unfortunately. It's between 10, 0 and 10. So like 10 is like basically a right angle curve. I don't know what would happen if you go higher than a right angle. You get some kind of wonky curve, I don't know. But it won't let you, unfortunately. So sampler 1 AHDSR, hey. So this is a velocity curve of 10, so I have to hit it very lightly, and you're still getting quite a loud volume. If I say sampler 1 AHDSR, hey, velocity curve to, I'll put it at 0.1. You can hear I'm hitting the keys quite hard, but the volume is still very, very low. So I have to really give it. In fact, it's so low the velocity. I have to hit it really hard to get any kind of velocity out of it. By default, the velocity curve is about 3 or 4 on all the sample instruments. So that's your kind of like your standard setting. Then you can play with it depending on the samples or depending on how you like to hit the keys. Okay, so that's the velocity curve. The other thing, obviously the AHDSR envelope is responsible for the envelope. So I want to talk a little bit about how the envelope works and how we can customize that. So how this works, okay, there's some connections going from the sampler oscillator, which is where you load the sound font into, and the connections go from here to the AHDSR. If you look at if you have the PDF handy or the diagrams handy, and we go to slide 4, which is the sampler oscillator, you can see the first 6 outputs are labelled delay output, attack output, hold, decay, sustain, release output. So inside any sound font file, there's actually information about the envelope parameters stored inside the sound font itself. So by default, when you load in a new sound font into any one of the sampler instruments, it reads the envelope settings from the sound font and sends this information down an individual wire for every parameter, and it sends this information to the AHDSR. So when you load a sound font, it will automatically read the envelope settings from the sampler oscillator and put them in the AHDSR. But we can override this and customize this manually. In order to do this, though, we need to do a little bit of plumbing, and by plumbing I mean rewiring of the setup. So I talked about these 400 odd agents inside the alpha setup, and they're all connected together with little virtual wires. And when we talk about plumbing, we basically need rewiring these virtual connections. And what we need to do is, say we wanted to control the attack of the piano. So at the moment, the piano has a very, my velocity curve's too low, 1 second. Let me put it on. Okay, there we go. So obviously the piano's got very, very quick attack. It's probably 0 or just a little bit above 0. So say we wanted to change the attack of the piano. First of all, what we'd have to do is disconnect the AHDSR's attack input from the sampler oscillator's attack output. So this is the connection that comes from the sound font and tells the AHDSR what the attack should be. But we need to break that connection so we can make our own, we can manually edit the envelope.
Sorry, Dave, what is the factory default velocity curve? John is asking.
It's 3, it's actually 4. It's 4. It's either 3 or 4. I'm pretty sure it's 4. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so to break the attack input, we need to disconnect the AHDSR's attack input so we can edit that manually. So again, this is back to the eigen command. We need to write in plumber hey. Okay, the plumber is the agent. So there's an agent whose sole job is to make these connections, disconnect things. So we're talking to the plumber at the moment. So plumber hey. Put that in the chat.
Yeah. What does Dave set it to in his setups?
I actually use the default settings. So I have mine on 4 or whatever. I think it's 4. It's 3 or 4. Yeah.